Happy Friday Eve day to all of my friends. You guys, you are going to love today's interview. But first, we've got Facebook and YouTube on my laptop. You know how I do it, using StreamYard, trying to go to all the places. If you're coming to us through YouTube, I want you to smash the subscribe button so you never miss one of my live trainings. And if you would be so kind to go to streamyard.com/Facebook and give StreamYard permission for Brenda and I to see your name. Otherwise, it just says Facebook user, and that's no fun. We can't interact with you in real time. So go to streamyard.com/Facebook and give permission for us to see your name. Today, we're talking all about boundaries. And based on the feedback I've gotten all week, when I made this announcement to you guys on Tuesday that Brenda was going to be my guest and the topic, everybody is like, I've got to hear this. I need help with this. And Brenda and I were just talking about this before I pushed the live button. As good as I am about having boundaries, I need help with it too. So I'm so glad she's here. We're going to talk about when you need to set them, how to do it without feeling guilty or feeling like a big old you know what, you know the word. And so Brenda Winkle is here to save us from ourselves. Let me introduce myself really fast, just in case this is the first time we've ever met. I'm Tracy Beavers, and I am your business and sales coach with over 20 years of experience in marketing, sales, and business growth. I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs just like you get visible so you can grow your email list and get that consistent monthly income that you really, really want. I just forgot that I needed to check my tech. Yep, I see us live in the group. Perfect. So as we go along, I want you to pop your questions and comments in the chat for us. Brenda is an open book, just like I am. She is one of the most giving, kind people I have met in a long time. And if you've got a question, I know she wants to get it answered for you. But let me tell you a little bit about Brenda. She's extraordinary. She is an educator, a healer, a speaker, and a guide who helps sensitive and successful high performers find, reclaim, and live their full embodied yes through empowering her clients to understand what's theirs and what's not, establish those boundaries like we talked about, and guiding them to full capacity living. How good does that sound? And establishing what is their yes-filled life so that they can move through their days with more freedom, more ease, and more joy. Brenda is the host and creator of a top 5% podcast, y'all. It's called the Yes Filled Life Podcast. You need to be listening to it. And her mission is just super simple. She wants to help people feel better, and she's been doing this for the past 8 years. Brenda, I'm so excited you're here. We are so thankful to hear from you. Is there anything you want to add before we just jump right in?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Tracy. I love any chance I can get to connect with you and just so appreciate the energy and the heart that you bring into entrepreneurship. And so it's really my honor to be here today.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. I know we love our clients, and we share that heart-centered approach. Lead with your heart first. And so I love it. I love time with you too. I always come away feeling refreshed and just better about my day. All right, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
How can you set a boundary without creating conflict? And avoiding conflict isn't the goal of the boundary. What to help us? When do we need to set these boundaries in our businesses? And how do we do that without rocking the whole boat?
I love this question, and it's one of the most common questions I get. And it often comes into my inbox something like, how do I set a boundary without creating more conflict? And so I love to remind people that the goal of the boundary is not to avoid conflict. The goal of a boundary is to basically create a how-to manual for you.
Okay.
So if we think about conflict, conflict does not have to be, and hopefully isn't, aggressive or violent.
Okay.
If conflict is aggressive or violent in your life, then it would be an opportunity for you to look at that relationship and decide if that's a safe relationship for you to be in, whether it's a business relationship, a personal relationship. That would be a really fair question to ask if you fear aggressive or violent conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But conflict just in and of itself simply means you don't necessarily agree.
Okay.
And so if you can go into setting a boundary,
Mhm.
really grounded in the reason that you're setting a boundary and ground it into your own body, it becomes a lot easier. And then you manage the boundary, that's your side of the street. And
Mhm.
then how somebody else receives the boundary is on their side of the street. And so one of the ways that you can do this is physically widen your stance.
Okay, like your feet.
Yes,
Yeah.
like make your feet wider. And so if we talk about energy work, my field is energy healing.
Yes.
If we talk about energy work, you are creating more resource when you widen your stance.
Okay.
So it's the same thing as like if you have a spill on your counter and you take a paper towel and you lay it out flat, it soaks up a lot quicker than if you fold it up into little pieces and then it's just this little square, right?
Okay.
It's the same thing. So if we can widen our stance, widen our physical stance, even if you're sitting in the chair, you can widen your knees. All of
Right.
a sudden, there's something that happens and you feel a little bit more confident, more grounded.
I
And
like
yeah, and it's so simple.
it is simple. So you're like, even if you're sitting in your chair, sit up straight and kind of
Mhm.
broaden your shoulders a little bit and
Yep, exactly. And widen those knees and then what I call it the central channel, which is basically your spinal column. If you're into energy work, that's something we also call chakras.
yes.
And so if you imagine just pulling your energy back into yourself,
Okay.
so now you're reclaiming all your energy, you widen your stance, and now all of a sudden, oh, I can feel me and I can feel you, and I know that I need this boundary. And one of the key indicators you need a boundary
Mhm.
is you feel irritated
Uh-huh.
or mad
Uh-huh.
or taken advantage of or resent.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. And you can feel it. For me, I can feel it in my gut.
Mhm.
Like it's a knowing. But that's when
Yes.
my brain starts to interfere with that childhood programming of, especially as women, well, you need to be nice. You
Mhm.
need to be sweet. You need to be accommodating. You know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
that's where, so what do you do when your gut is screaming, you need a boundary, and your brain's going, but you have to be nice?
Ah, yes. Okay, so we have 3 intuitive centers. We
Okay.
have we have the brain, this is where our mental field is, and we're not making the mental field bad. It's important.
Right,
That's
right.
where our intellect lives. It's a good thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes in spiritual spaces, you'll hear people talk about it as the ego, and they kind of make it bad. It's not a bad thing. It's
Okay.
something we all have as humans. So we love the mental field. But the mental field moves very, very quickly, and it's not fully resourced.
Mhm.
So if we can drop our awareness, like even try it now, drop your awareness into your heart,
Okay.
and you'll notice that there's a subtle slowing that begins to happen.
Mhm.
You still have access to everything in this mental field,
Mhm.
but now it's slower.
Mhm. It is.
Now drop that awareness again, one more time to your belly.
Okay.
It's going to slow even more. And I just watched you take a deep breath.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I felt the need to exhale when you said that.
Mhm.
Okay.
And so,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So from this place,
Mhm.
this has information and not chatter.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? Can you
Mhm.
feel that in your system?
Yeah. 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 It feels like it's not as loud.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm. So when we set the boundary using our whole body,
Uh-huh.
we don't have the chatter and the fear that our mental field can create,
Okay.
and it's a stronger boundary because we've used the whole body.
Okay. I could see how that could be. Yes. Because that
Mhm.
does feel different to me than being all up in my head about it.
Yeah.
And I do feel stronger right now, kind of widening my stance and doing what you said with my shoulders and, really moving that down from the chatterbox up here.
Mhm.
Uh,
And just noticing, like, our speech has slowed.
yes,
Yeah.
which is big
So
for me. That's a breakthrough right there.
that's fun. So as we slow down, now all of a sudden we're having a lot more resource in our bodies, and
Right.
we can use our whole body, not just our mind. And we've got so much wisdom and intuition, and the intuitive body lives lower in the body. It doesn't actually live here. It's in the heart, it's in the gut, it's in this field around us. And
Mhm.
so when we can access that intuitive body,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden it just feels so much easier to
Mhm.
set a boundary.
Yeah. That reminds me of when I feel like I'll get an intuitive hit in my gut or my heart, but then my brain, the chatterbox, tries to rationalize it, keep me safe, talk me out of it, that kind of thing. So that's also what you're saying of living in that intuition. We need to do that with our mindset, but we also need to do that with our boundaries too.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
And so as we slow in these centers, it slows us down. We
Mm.
have to move just a little bit more slowly.
Okay.
If we go at the breakneck speed that our mental field would have us move at,
Hmm.
it's easy to miss some of those cues that we get in our body. Like you said, you feel it in your stomach.
Hmm.
So if we're moving really, really fast, we might just think, oh, I'm hungry. And we might ignore a feeling.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we can just take even like 3 seconds,
Uh-huh.
like let's count to three here for a second and make it about 3 seconds.
Okay. Go ahead.
1, 2, 3. So in our mind, we're like, oh my gosh, 3 seconds is an eternity, but it's not. If we can even just like do some kind of body language that indicates you're thinking to the
Yes.
person that you're talking to. So you could just, bring your hand to your chin.
Uh-huh.
You could do something with your hair. You could shift your clothes. Just something, some kind of cue that you're thinking. Buy yourself time to
Uh-huh.
slow it down and tune into what the body's telling you.
Okay. And this reminds me of something that I learned back when I was in corporate about if you're sitting around a boardroom, for example, and when you slow your speech down, it gives more impact to what you're saying
Mhm.
and gives you time to think. But then also, people are more inclined to listen because they have to listen to get the next word. Like my mom taught kindergarten for 35 years, and she always said she could control the classroom by whispering. And she never yelled, she never raised her voice, she never had to. She
Mhm.
spoke very slowly and deliberately, or she lowered her voice like this, where people had to pay attention. And so that's kind of what's running through my head right now. When you're talking about slowing down that speech, then maybe the person you're talking to is more likely to accept the boundary then, do you think?
Well, again, boundary setting is about us.
Okay, okay, right,
We
you said
we truly can't control how someone else is going to receive our boundary. I will say that when we slow down, if we're more grounded in our own boundary, then we're more able to hold the boundary. So really the first step is recognizing we need a boundary.
that. Got
The second step is setting the boundary, and then comes the work
it.
holding the boundary.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that here in just a second 'cause that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to setting the boundary. How do we do this with ease? Do you have a template? Do you have a structure that you follow? What has helped
I
you do this?
do. So the way that I really grew into boundaries, and first I just want to say, I teach what I most needed to know. So I have so much love and compassion for anyone who's sitting and listening and thinking, I don't even know how to set a boundary. I've never set a boundary in my life.
Yeah,
I totally understand and have so much love for that.
yeah,
So you can start from not having a single boundary to having really good boundaries and still get better. I feel like it's a lifelong process. I feel like I'm still learning and honing and refining my boundary process. But I like to think of a statement
okay,
that's a mix of the work of Terry Cole and nonviolent communication. So
okay,
it's kind of a blend of both.
all right,
It's 4 parts. I noticed,
okay,
I felt,
okay,
I'd like to make a request.
okay,
Can we agree?
okay.
Okay.
Go okay, one more
So I noticed,
uh-huh,
I felt,
okay,
I'd like to make a request.
okay,
Can we agree?
okay.
So, like, for example, we have a lot of entrepreneurs in this space.
Yes, yes.
So let's say that somebody's adding to their team
Okay.
and their team member is there's some funkiness in the energy with the new team member.
Mhm.
And so then as leaders, we know we need to set a boundary. We want to preserve the relationship, at least at this point.
Right.
And so we need to set a boundary. So I noticed that you didn't turn in the items that we'd agreed on at the time that we'd agreed. And I felt frustrated by that because I thought that we had talked about what the process would be if you needed help.
Right.
So I'd like to make a request that if something's not going to come in on time, that we talk about it
Okay.
and you let me know if you need help. Can we agree moving forward that this is the process we'll be using?
That's brilliant. Okay. So you've set the boundary
Mhm.
without really setting the boundary. You know what I mean? Like coming
Right.
down on it like a hammer on them.
Right, because, if somebody comes down with a hammer on me,
Yeah.
my first instinct is to push back.
Right, right, right,
I don't like I'm like, either I'm gonna go into defense
right,
or I'm gonna be, like, pushing away
right,
or maybe even being like, I don't wanna be in this relationship."
right. So it could really burn a bridge.
It could burn a bridge.
Yeah.
So if we can make it conversational, it's
Okay.
no less impactful. I am very serious about the boundary that I just set.
Right.
But it feels conversational, and so
Mhm.
when it feels conversational, at least from our and again, we can only control our boundary setting. We
Right.
can't control how someone receives it, but if we think about those statements, it's about us,
Mhm.
it's not as much about them, and
Mhm.
then there's a pretty good likelihood that it will be received as a conversation instead of a
Yes.
confrontation.
Correct. I could totally see that with the way you phrased it. It gives that person an opportunity to it's like the ping and the pong in the conversation are not disrupted.
Yes,
Yeah, they're more
exactly.
likely to respond back and
Mhm.
have a constructive conversation than a screaming match.
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you this, because I know I struggle with this and I know my clients do too. And we talked about this right before I pushed the live button. What do we do, for example, when we do one to one work and we have a client that does not want to respect the agreed upon contract, timeline, work, scope of work? What do we can set the, what do we do? Please help.
Mhm. Yeah,
Because
I love this question. So, we talked about how recognizing the boundary,
right,
setting the boundary, then holding the boundary is the next step.
the
So
whole,
that's where we are right now with the
okay,
client because already you've established maybe, or maybe you haven't established it. Maybe you are getting those sensations in your body that you're like, "Ooh, I need to establish this boundary because I'm
okay,
feeling taken advantage of."
right.
Either way would be fine.
And that's when we walk back through that template that you just gave us. Feel
Exactly.
like we haven't established the boundary. That's when we go back to the 4-part template you just gave.
Right. And
Okay.
so I'll give you an example from one of my containers.
Okay.
I have a signature program called Yes Academy, which is actually what it was my product from Digital Course Academy with Amy Porterfield. And we can talk about that in a minute. But Yes Academy is 8 recorded modules, and then we have live calls. It's a 6-month container.
Okay.
I was noticing that there was like this low level static in the container. And when I say static, I mean like there's just that crunchy feeling
Mhm.
of one person taking maybe more than their share and one person dominating the conversation, those kinds of things.
Yes.
And so what I did is I came in and I said, I'm taking total radical responsibility for this container as your leader. It is my responsibility.
Right.
And I'm recognizing that this isn't feeling good to me and our energy is not squeaky clean. And I just am committed to squeaky clean energy. So
Mhm.
moving forward, these are our container agreements.
Okay.
And then I set the new container agreements and it was like instant. So in that case, I had to come in with a new set of boundaries because we'd been doing something. And then I realized, oh, it's not working.
Okay.
So full permission to come in anytime and say, oh, I'm realizing I don't have these boundaries set yet and I need to. And so that would be one thing.
Mhm.
Now, let's say it's a one-to-one client, like you mentioned.
Mhm.
When we hold the boundary, holding the boundary really is step one of the holding the boundary part.
Okay.
There are different kinds of people, right? And even if you think about kids in this example,
Mhm.
there are going to be certain people who automatically will respect your boundary. They'll be
Yes.
like, "Yes, of course. I would love to do that for you. That sounds great. That makes sense." And then there are going to be boundary testers, people who are like, "Are you really
They
serious?"
just wanna poke it.
Right. Like, "Is
Yeah.
this really a boundary? I just wanna know.
Right.
I'm gonna keep coming up against it." And then there's boundary violators.
Okay.
And boundary violators are the people who will not respect the boundary,
They
no
just
matter
push
how many times yeah, no matter how many times you say it.
that. Okay.
So, when we think about holding the boundary, we want to create a logical, natural consequence for not respecting the boundary.
Okay.
And so, if we think about a natural, logical consequence, we want it to be related to the boundary.
Okay.
And so, for example, let's say in my case, I have a 6-month container
Right. Right.
and I offer 2 one-to-ones in that 6-month container.
Okay.
And let's say that somebody says, "Well, I don't want my one-to-ones in the 6-month container. I want them outside of it, like maybe 8 months, maybe 10 months later."
Okay. That's a great example.
Yeah. And that's happened. That's
Oh,
happened. That's a real life example. Um,
heavens.
and so, my job is to really think about, why did I set the container?
Right.
Why was it 6 months?
Right.
And how does the one-on-one being in that 6-month container support the goal?
Right.
If I can come up with a really good answer on why, and even if I can't, even if it's just because I want to, that's reason enough, by the way, just wanting to.
Yes.
Um, so then when I'm clear, I can communicate to the person and say, "I was really clear. This was on the sales page. This has been in our conversations. This has been in our emails, that this is the container.
Mhm.
This is the time frame that's set. I really understand you've had some other things happening in your life. I
Mhm.
have so much respect, so much love for it. And also, our container is 6 months."
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. And you probably answered this already, so forgive me for asking again because I know I'm asking the question in my head. Okay, I see myself walking through that answer,
Mhm.
and then I see myself feeling bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do we do with that?
Okay. So we're going to come back to the very first thing, which is we can't control how anybody feels about our boundary.
Right?
And we really do need to create some distance for that for ourselves.
Okay.
So if you think about, take it, I love changing the context of things to bring a point home.
Yeah.
So let's say that the boundary is a red light.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Okay. We don't get mad because the light is red. We know that the red light in traffic means stop.
Right.
If the red light in traffic that means stop shows up and we continue to move through the red light,
Uh-huh.
that's no one's fault except for the person who continued to drive through the red light.
Okay. Okay.
So when that guilt comes up and
Uh-huh.
you're like, "Oh my gosh,
Right.
this has been a long time client and someone that I really care about, and I have this 6-month container, but she wants this call out of it." Then I think to myself, "Okay, if this were a red light,
Yeah.
would I do this?" And then we all have a certain amount of bandwidth and energy.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if we don't protect our own bandwidth and energy, no one else will. No
Yes.
one's coming in to do it for us. And
Right.
sometimes our no, our boundary, whatever that is simply to protect our own energy and bandwidth so that we can show up for everyone else in our lives,
Including ourselves.
including ourselves, especially ourselves. And so when we have those clients that want to take more,
Mhm. They
then
wanna run the red light.
they want to run the red light. And so then it's an opportunity to say, "Okay, so we've talked about this.
Mhm.
I've made myself clear. I understand your situation. I understand that you've had all of these changes that you have decided that now is the right time to make those changes, but that does not change the agreement that we made,
Okay.
which is this is a 6-month container. I love you so much. Let's see if we can get this wrapped up in 6 months. And if not, well, that'll be a choice that you make. When we make someone else's choices our problem, that's where a lot of us get stuck.
Okay.
So if you think about, like, if you're the one crossing this, you're in the street, you're driving down, it's not your fault
Mhm.
or any really even in any of your business if the person ahead of you runs that red light.
That
That's
is
their choice.
that is true. That is so true.
And so many times we try to own other people's decisions and we try to take responsibility for them. And then we have to ask ourselves, wait, is this actually my responsibility? Is it my responsibility that you signed up for 4 other courses during my 6-month
Yes.
container? It's not. It's not. And
Yes.
when we can get really clear about that, it feels good and it keeps our energy clean
Right.
because in the back of our heads, we're all thinking it anyway, right?
Yeah.
We're all thinking, I watched you sign up for those 3 other courses, and now you want me to do something special for you that's above and beyond what we agreed on
Exactly.
because you don't have the bandwidth. That's not my fault or problem.
Yeah. Right. Right. And then the other thing that occurs to me is it's almost disrespectful to everybody else who's
Mhm.
following the 6-month container with you
Right.
to make that exception. It's like it's like all the good kids are getting punished for this one over here that's running the red light.
Right.
You know what
And
I'm
if you think they're not talking to each other,
Oh, so wrong.
they're talking to each other. And so if you bend that boundary
Yeah.
for a reason like I signed up for too many things and I decided to agree to do these other things that took my attention away, then you can really create some issues for yourself in those containers. And then, I think that it's nice to have discernment. So
Mhm.
like I have one client who has not been able to attend any Yes Academies in the past 4 months because of a, a really extenuating personal circumstance. And in that case, I don't mind just putting it on pause
Same.
and letting her come back in. But
Yeah,
that's different than somebody else trying to make their choices my problem.
exactly. I've had a couple of clients who have lost parents, and I know they have a session coming up, and I don't even ask them. I just Voxer them and I say, "We're
Mhm,
gonna reschedule this. It's okay. We're gonna
mhm.
we're gonna park it out."
Yeah,
So I agree with you. We do have to use some heart, but we can only use so much heart. We can only extend it for so long. So what do you do if somebody gets mad at you?
nothing. I mean, if somebody's mad at me, that's their side of the street. If I
Right.
can know with total integrity that I have been a woman of my word, that I have been clear, that I have clearly communicated my expectations and my boundaries, then it's really their side of the street. And I don't allow myself to take it on. Now that's been a process.
Yeah.
That was not how like, if you would have asked 20-year-old Brenda that same question, I would have carried all that garbage around with me for decades. But
Yes.
50-year-old Brenda says, "That's not my problem."
Right. Right. So, and I was visualizing you're on your side of the street, they're on their side of the street, and literally the boundary you set is like the lines on your side of the street.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And so I like to think of like a New York City street.
Hmm.
So if we can imagine that, we've got the 2 sidewalks on each side of the street and all those lanes of traffic in the middle.
Uh-huh.
Okay? If I could and or should do something on my side of the street for this person, then I will. But if I would have to cross 4 lanes of traffic to come over here and take care of this thing for this person, then that's
Uh-huh.
their side of the street. So think about how many lanes of traffic. Gosh, there's a lot of traffic things going on today. But think about how many lanes of traffic do I have to cross to make this accommodation? Am
Okay.
I going to jeopardize my health my sanity, my peace, my family, my income to
Mhm.
cross these lanes of traffic, then that's going to be a no for me.
Okay. That is so helpful. I like a visualization. I think that's perfect. That is amazing. And I'm looking at the comments and there's some great questions coming up that we're going to get to.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I can't wait.
I know.
I have ADHD, and so I do not have Facebook comments up. I'm just looking at you. So feel free to read me the comments and the questions.
It's okay. Sometimes I get distracted by them too. But let's talk really quick. You had mentioned that this 6-month container is what you created during Digital Course Academy.
Yeah.
And, I went through it. That's where we met. And,
Yes.
and the doors are closing tonight on Digital
Mhm.
Course Academy. Would you share with people what your experience was in this program, how it transformed your business? Was it worth the investment that you made? Like just honest conversation, Brenda.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I have my course creator fuel mug. I don't know
Yes.
if you can see it with the light, but this was part of, one of the bonuses that I got through Digital Course Academy.
I got one too.
I was at that time, I think I was in my 25th year of teaching
Mhm.
when I took Digital Course Academy 2 years ago. And I loved being a teacher, but I knew I didn't have another 10 years in me to
Yeah.
retire at full retirement. And so I took Digital Course Academy in hopes that I could transition into something else.
Okay.
And that was really my dream. I didn't know if that would happen, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to invest in myself and I'm
Mhm.
going to give it a try. And
Mhm.
as a teacher, I had one set of skills.
Mhm.
Business was not one of them.
Okay.
Developing online courses was not one of them because my business up to that point, I had been I love to just play in things. So I'd been a Mary Kay sales director. I had owned a photography studio. I had owned a Reiki studio. I mean, I've done lots of different things, but they were brick and mortar.
Right.
But I knew I wanted to do something in the online space
Right.
because I didn't want to be limited to one location.
Right.
And so I took Digital Course Academy to learn about how do I do this thing that I know how to do, which is educate people
Right.
in the online space. And what I found was I learned not only how to do that in the online space,
Um,
but I learned a lot of processes that I didn't know before. And then the support of the community, like meeting people like you, for example, has been absolutely life changing. And I left that career like 14 months ago.
Nice.
And so Digital Course Academy really was the first step to me creating a life that I truly want to live. That's my yes-filled life.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. For you to walk in your authenticity,
Mhm.
helping women get to their yes-filled life, you've done it, and you did it in 14 months. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Yeah. I have a similar story. You've heard this before. Over 20 years in corporate marketing, sales, business growth, and it just like you, I was like, this feels like a jacket that is 2 sizes too small.
Yes.
But I was scared to make the investment. And so like what would you say to somebody that's like us that's nervous about it? They just are because I've talked to several people this week that are like, Tracy, I'm just scared.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things are unpredictable. We don't know what the real estate market's going to do. We don't know what the stock market's going to do. But you know what? It's always a sure bet? Investing in you.
Ah, yes.
Because you have control over how much you're going to invest in time and effort and energy.
Hmm.
And so if somebody's on the fence, do it.
Okay.
Do
Do
it
it.
because it's never a bad investment to invest in you.
Mhm. Right. That is so true. Yes, I love it. Thank you for that. And one of the awesome byproducts of Digital Course Academy has been meeting women like you and men too.
Mhm.
There's a mix
There's
of
a lot of men. Yeah.
men. And I was not expecting that at
Mm.
all. Like I had my blinders on thinking I need to get in there. I need to consume the information. I need to get this online course built. And I did. But along the way, I got to meet people like you and, Susan Smith and Valerie, we're going to have on next week. And a lot of my clients and students actually have come from
Mhm.
that community.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, it's really life-changing. It's
mhm,
a beautiful community,
it
and I'm
is.
still in momentum. I'm
Me
still
too.
in it 2 years later.
Yep, me too. And I won't leave because it's just being in a room filled with entrepreneurs who are doing what we're doing.
Mhm.
They're feeling the feelings that we're feeling. They, like today's conversation. How many of people in our community are here listening because they met us, they know us, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I need boundaries, so I'm going to go learn from Brenda," or
Mhm.
they need email list growth, so I'm going to go learn from Tracy. And yeah, it's just the community. Amy Porterfield attracts a community that is a true community,
Yeah.
and that's what I've sort of what I wanted to do with my free Facebook group. Is create something like that because there's not enough of those places.
Mhm.
You know,
That's right.
awesome.
That's right.
All right, let me hop into the comments really fast because we have some questions. All right, Selena asked, she's so funny. Selena Beasley is hysterically funny and adorable. If you don't know her, you need to know her. How do you set the pace and slow down when you're hustling? Talking about your brain, I think. You're in
Mhm.
the middle of a launch. She says she's asking for a friend. How do you slow down? Like, because I know how that feels. The last 2 weeks as a DCA affiliate have been a roller coaster. It's been awesome. I've loved it, but I'm a little tired, and I'm heading right into the launch of my program now, starting tomorrow.
Mhm. Mhm.
How do we how do we slow that down a little bit?
So the answer is going to be counterintuitive.
Okay.
So just like take a deep breath.
Okay.
The most effective time you'll ever spend is doing nothing.
Say that again.
The most effective time you'll ever spend is doing nothing. And here's why.
Okay.
Energy has no walls,
Okay.
and everything has the energetic frequency of the place it was created.
Okay.
So if like for example, if I'm going to post something on social media
Uh-huh.
and I am stressed and I am hustling, I'm exhausted, I am working, I am like totally just in this distorted masculine energy of hustle, hustle, grind, grind.
Uh-huh.
That's the energy that's on the post because energy has no walls.
Okay.
So when I have personally done that, because I have,
Me
when
too.
I've personally done that, it falls flat.
Mhm.
Nobody watches it. Nobody like because that energy is repelling.
It is. You're yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
this is why it's counterintuitive. Our brains and our culture tell us we need
See
to
that.
move faster and we need to move harder.
Right,
We
right.
need to actually increase. And what we can do instead is to like take a breath,
Uh-huh.
create a little bit of buffer in our calendar between every single thing
Okay.
and do nothing. Like go make a cup of tea,
Go walk the dog.
go walk the dog, take a nap.
Oh, yeah, no, okay, I'm sorry, I'm the worst napper in the world. Girl, I admire people that can nap. I just no,
I'm
but
not
I
much
can
of a
do a little
napper, but I can do a yoga nidra, or I can do a breathwork session, or I can do a meditation.
right.
And every time that I do that, I come back with new ideas and a new energy.
Mhm,
And then everything that I'm working on just goes more smoothly. There's
mhm.
a certain point when we're hustling that we're working from depletion.
It totally,
And if we can come back and
totally,
pour into ourselves just a little bit more,
right.
then all of a sudden that energy shifts and
Mhm.
we're into attracting what we want to feel again.
Gosh, that is so right and so hard to do, but yes, I hope everybody is hearing you. Lori Brooks had a great question. She's also somebody that's super amazing. I just love my community. They're the best people. So Lori asked, "Can you give us one more example of the conversation, the four part template? The I noticed, I felt, I need to make a request. Can we agree? Can you give us one more example?"
Yeah, exactly. Do you want it to be
Okay.
from like personal life or business?
Oh gosh, I don't think Lori cares. There's a delay on the comments. Go ahead and give it. Do you have time to give us one of each?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So one of the issues that comes up for a lot of people is somebody is late for
Okay.
something.
Right.
And this could be a business relationship or it could be a personal relationship.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you an example of how to set the boundary. And then I'm going to give you an example of what to do if they're a continual boundary violator.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's say that this person is late for your meeting, whether it's, your spouse coming home late for dinner or one of your collaborators that's late for a meeting. I noticed
Mhm.
that you were 30 minutes late.
Okay.
And I felt really frustrated because I had arranged my schedule and the babysitters to be there on time.
Mhm.
And I was feeling frustrated and honestly kind of angry. And I'd like to make a request that
Mhm.
if you know you're going to be late, that you let me know so that I can let the people I'm working with know
Mhm.
so that I'm not wasting my time. Can we
Mhm.
agree moving forward that we communicate if you're going to be late?
I love it. I love it.
So
Yeah.
so let's say it's somebody who you've had this conversation with 2 or 3 times because, as we learn to set boundaries and we set boundaries, if we haven't been setting boundaries, it does take people time to learn them.
Yeah,
So
they're
we
gonna be red light runners.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
s but let's say that they're not getting it and and it's just, like, keeps happening,
Okay.
and you're like, "Seriously?"
Right.
So then that means you need a consequence.
Okay.
So let's say that you're meeting somebody outside of your home. You're meeting at a coffee shop or whatever,
Okay.
whether it's personal or business, doesn't matter. I noticed that you were 30 minutes late.
Mhm.
I'm feeling really frustrated because we've had this conversation 3 times
Mhm.
about how important it is for us to communicate about this.
Right.
Moving forward, if you're not there on time in 5 minutes, I'm going to leave.
I like it. I like
There's the
it.
consequence. Yeah, and then you have taken back your power,
Truly have.
and
Yes.
that feels so much better in your system.
It does. Yeah. 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 Oh, that's brilliant. That is Brenda, that is brilliant. There are so many cool comments coming in. I want you to go back into the Facebook group and see them.
I will, I will. I want to look at them, but I know myself, and I was like, "I will just get stuck and stop talking."
Okay. You have something really cool that you want to share with everybody. You got a couple of things. We mentioned the podcast. I know Jill tossed the podcast link into the chat for everybody so they can go and download and listen. It is a top 5% ranked podcast, you guys, for a reason. Now, I know you've got a new masterclass coming up, and you also have a free thing for everybody. Do you want to tell us about that?
That's right. But first, about the podcast, Tracy, you are the guest on Sunday's episode that's coming out. So you'll get to hear Tracy on the podcast on Sunday. So be sure you go hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing.
And
And I do have a new masterclass coming out. It's called Boundary Brilliance. It's on October 12th.
okay,
And if Jill can drop the link, that'd be great.
she will.
I
She's
think that it's boundary dash brilliance or something like that. But I sometimes mix up those. But anyway, that masterclass is all about boundaries and it's going to include some breath work so that we can get into a regulated state in our bodies before we even start the conversation.
okay.
So love to see your community come join for that.
Yes.
And if you are in Tracy's community and you come to that, be sure you let me know that you're in Tracy's community. I'd love to connect with you.
Oh, yeah.
And then I do have a free gift.
Oh,
It's a free 4-part video series and PDF instant download that is breathwork to strengthen and trust your intuition.
oh, that's necessary for boundaries. Yeah.
Yes, for boundaries and for entrepreneurs,
Mm.
because as we know, there's not really a how-to manual, and our intuition really is our best guide. And so
Yeah.
tapping into that intuition and getting clarity around what it is that we want to do, we think we should do, what's best for us
Mhm.
is so valuable. So there's that free 4-part video series and PDF download at brendawinkle.com/breathe.
Love it. And Jill's got all those links in the chat, you guys.
Oh, thank you, Jill.
Yeah, she's the best. Everybody needs a Jill.
Everybody needs a Jill.
So she shared all that stuff. If you missed the link for some reason, just message me. I'll connect. We can get it. We will get it to you. I love what you said about as entrepreneurs, we need to tune into our intuition because I was just talking about this with my group this morning. There's so much noise and there's arguments for everything.
Mhm.
Whatever decision you want to make, you're going to find somebody that's going to tell you to go right, and you're going to find somebody that's going to tell you to go left. And that's where we have to tune into our authenticity. And that's where what I talk about building with ease, that's where that comes in, is when you're
Mhm.
in authenticity and you're in alignment and you're listening to your intuition. It's not going to feel like a hustle and grind like you and I are talking about. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Wow. That's so cool. What's your favorite platform where everybody can connect with you and find you?
My favorite platform to play around and communicate with people is Instagram. I'm there at Brenda Winkle. I'm on Facebook. I'm not as good on Facebook, but I am there.
Yeah.
And my website is probably the hub of everything. So it's got all of the free stuff. It's got links for everything. I don't have the masterclass link there yet, but I'll do that today. Um, and that's brendawinkle.com.
Awesome. All right, my friends. This has been outstanding. Brenda, thank you again so much for pouring into my community and helping us with a topic that is just really difficult sometimes. It just really is. And you guys heard us talk about Amy Porterfield's program, Digital Course Academy. And I've been talking to you about it for a couple of weeks because it has been the program that changed the trajectory of my business, changed Brenda's life, allowed her
Mhm.
to retire from a teaching career that she loved but just didn't feel like it fit anymore, allowed me to exit corporate. The doors close on this program tonight at 6 o'clock Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And they're not going to reopen again until September of 2024. Do you want to wait another year to have a yes filled life like what Brenda is talking about? And you know that I've wasted lots of money on other coaches and programs mucking around trying to find the answer, and Digital Course Academy was it. Do not make the same mistake that I did. I
Mhm.
want you to go to tracybeavers.com/DCA. Look at my bonus, which is my 8-week group coaching program. You get it for free. You're going to be live coaching with me to walk you through all this stuff you're learning. And if you have a question, DM me or email me at tracy@tracybeavers.com. Let's get your questions answered. I have time this afternoon to meet with you by a phone call or Zoom. Get your questions answered. Find out if this is the right thing for you. I'll tell you if it is or not because I have to sleep at night. I'm not going to let you invest in something that's not going to be good for you. But let's not wait another year. Let's shortcut that learning curve for you and get your online business going before the end of this year. That's how impactful this program is.
Mhm.
And in my Facebook group, there are so many students and alums of Digital Course Academy, including Business Visibility Made Easy, my group coaching program. Ask them their experience. Ask them questions, they'll tell you. And be here every Thursday at 11:30 Central. Put it on your calendar, set the phone alarm. Don't miss a single training. And come into my free Facebook group like Brenda and I talked about. Finding a community of people to collaborate with and support you is priceless. It's called Be a Confident Entrepreneur, Get Visible and Grow Your Income. You belong with us. And remember, I say this every single week, don't go it alone. Being an entrepreneur is freaking hard. Some days everybody wants to buy what you're selling, and other days nobody can remember your name, and the phone's not ringing, and your email inbox is like crickets. And you think you're alone feeling that way? You are not. You are not, my friend. So I want you to come join with us, be in our community so you don't feel alone. Have a great balance of the week and weekend. And remember, when one of us rises, we all rise. So we have got to keep cheering each other on. And Brenda, thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tracy. It's been a true joy.
You're welcome. I will see you guys next week, Thursday at 11:30.